Welcome to STR Like the Best. This is Michael Chang, your host. I am honored today to welcome Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh. Dr. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. I'm so looking forward to this, especially since we had the opportunity to meet in person. I'm super stoked about this podcast that you're putting out there, putting out good information for the community. We all know that we need as much as possible. So thank you. Thank you for putting it together.
Thanks for taking the time to join. Just to quickly introduce Dr. Rachel, she was born in Haiti and driven to make a difference and not take her parents' sacrifices for granted, very similar to my journey here as an immigrant to the country. Rachel is all in on short-term rentals. It's helped her husband retire at 46 from a stressful medical practice, and she's now semi-retired at pharmacy as a pharmacist as well. And we're going to talk today about short-term rentals, midterm rentals. But before we start the show, I was asked this question: what was the kind of craziest short-term rental story you have that you'd like to share with us?
Oh my goodness. So our cringiest, crazy short-term rental story has to do with, I guess it's my temperament. Like I love the rules. I follow the rules. And unfortunately, this property that we purchased was in an area that had an optional HOA. So optional means you don't need to sign up for it, right?
Yeah.
Wrong. Lo and behold, it was just a disaster, like dead on arrival. We started hosting our guests, and one night, I think it was like 3 or 4 in the morning, we get a knock on our door of our personal home, and we lived less than a couple of miles away. And apparently, one of the neighbors had skip traced us as the owners of that property, went to our home to complain on the guests that were there. So for me, that was wild. Needless to say, it was a terrible experience for the guests. It was a terrible experience for the neighbors. So had we had done a little bit more of our due diligence to figure out really what does that mean, what were our rights, we would have been in a better off position. So yeah, not only was it a crazy story, it was a story where we sold the property early and lost the money on it. So not thrilled
Uh,
about that, but nevertheless.
yeah, that's crazy. You hear about these voluntary
Oh my
HOAs are
goodness.
something that we really are careful about. Where was this kind of in the beginning of the journey, middle? When did this
Yes,
happen?
the very beginning of the journey, and it was a huge lessons learned. You don't win or you don't lose. You either win or you learn, right? So
Yeah.
that was a learning, a big learning for us as well. So in the very beginning. So I'm very specific about HOAs now. I know some areas are very HOA centric, so I have to have two parameters must be true in order for me to invest in an area with the HOA. So that really solidified my process going forward.
Got it. Yeah, us too. We own properties in Tennessee, and they're all in HOAs. Everyone there is a short term rental. They can't.
Exactly.
I think that provides a measure of protection. The stuff we look at, unless it's a substantial majority of STRs, we won't touch it and the CCRs have to also align
Yeah.
because of everything that's happened. Look, I mean, today I want to talk about two things. Two things are really important. The first thing really important to me, like financial literacy. I know it's a really big part of your journey and of what talk publicly. So I want to talk about that. And secondly is about midterm rentals. And I know you started with short-term rentals. You're doing more on midterm rentals now. So definitely want to talk about that. And then just the current state of play. Obviously, we're in this market environment right now, a lot of uncertainty, and just how are things going on your portfolio. So those are 3 topics that I want to hit today. So start off with financial literacy. Look, I think
Mm.
growing up tell us about your background and how
Yeah.
you realized that maybe you weren't financial literate and how that process unfolded for you.
Yeah, so I was born in Haiti, which is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, Michael, and raised in Miami. And so the transition that my parents went through as immigrants, they came from, I would say, positions of status, and they were well educated back home. But when you come to this country, the US, there's definitely a learning curve. And since they were older and they had us kiddos, they spent the vast majority of their time doing manual labor, factory work, driving cabs, and that kind of thing. And to say that financial literacy was not part of the equation when we would have our talks at dinner time or on the weekends. It just, there was not much finances to literate upon. It was hand to mouth. Imagine 4 kids, right? With living off of minimum wage. And back
Yeah.
then, I remember my mom telling me it was like $3 and something per hour, $4 and change per hour. And so, needless to say, we didn't really feel poor. We were poor. We didn't really feel poor. We always had a roof over our head. Our parents made sure to make that happen. We always had food to eat,
Yeah.
albeit there was no eat out. Like eating at McDonald's was like, oh, we're really splurging now. But it was home cooked, healthy meals that I would like absolutely love today. But back then I thought I was being deprived. I'm not gonna lie. I thought I was like, oh, they don't want me to be great. But nevertheless, those conversations weren't happening. We weren't talking about cost segregation studies, 1031 exchange, none of that. Okay. It was like, but I do remember my mom, she would have this used envelope and then she would write down her budget. And then she had a little uh, area for giving. She always gave, and the bills. And
Yeah.
that was it. And a little bit of savings as well. So I'm in awe. I feel, oh my gosh, I spend too much sometimes, but I'm in awe that they were able to do as much as they did with so little. And so after I graduated from grad school, my husband and I, we had a whopping $500,000 of student loan debt. And being very frugal growing up, going through grad school growing up, going through grad school, not really having any income, going through a residency, not having much of an income. So once I graduated with all that those student loans, I did the most sensible thing, obviously. Focus
Yeah.
on the student loans. No. I went and bought the biggest house I could find, the biggest car, the purse. Like it was buck wild. For the first time, I was like, I've got money. And I
Yeah.
lost my ever loving mind. My husband was like, come back home, get out of the Range Rover boutique. So he stopped that from happening. But there was that grace period, right? Where you're getting this revenue, the student loans weren't due, but the wake up call was when the bill for the student loans came in and it was like 5x our mortgage, right? Because we had just built this big old 6 bedroom house for the two of us and a kid. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, didn't make any sense. So I had a serious, like, humbling moment when we realized that our great income, which was a little, it was close to 6 figures when you first start, it just wasn't cutting it to make the bills. And
Yeah.
my husband actually had a visceral reaction, like physically, he wanted to throw up. And he's more frugal than me. He grew up with money and he just couldn't fathom it. And so I knew I had to buckle down. I knew something had to change. And so immediately I just started to look, I do tap into my resources. Like, what is the best resource for me to get out of this? And I jumped on the Dave Ramsey codes or the Dave Ramsey train. And that's where I got my start in learning about financial literacy, learning about debt, learning about budgeting, learning about debt payoff. And so
Yeah.
now I say I would probably be more towards Robert Kiyosaki camp, but for that moment in time, that slice of life, that's where I needed to be. And so that's how we were able to get rid of a considerable amount of our debt.
Yeah, look, I think you hit on that's great. Thank you for sharing. You hit on a lot of really good points there. I think one thing that resonated with me first off is just those things that you remember when you were a kid, how your parents and their habits, how they budget, how they think about money, how it really impacts you. You talked about your mom, with the envelope and the budget. Like my parents, similarly, we moved from Taiwan to the U.S. when I was 4. We didn't have much. Parents worked service jobs for their entire career too. But it was also, I remember my mom, she would walk to work every day to save like the 25-cent bus fare. It was like a 30-minute walk, not to say it was like uphill both ways or anything like that. But still, after a long day of work, like walking home, and now you think of 25 cents, like whatever. But back then it mattered. And those are some of the values that you always carry forward in life. I still remember that, even though it was like 40 years ago, I still remember that visceral reaction. Whoa. So it really colors the way that you think about money. And look, that obviously is like a big hole. Like a lot of people are in that situation, right? Like student loan debt, right? When you're in school, you forget about it. It's like, just kind of cruise. You don't have to think about it, and it hits you. But you both had well-paying jobs. Like, how did that mindset shift go for you, right? Like, how did you actually end up learning? You talked about Dave Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki. How did you learn to budget maybe a little bit better, and then manage that debt appropriately so that you can go and invest in real estate.
Yeah, so I was all in. Whenever I am looking to accomplish a goal, especially one that I feel like is eluding me, it's like I don't quite know how to catch this. I look for those who are in the space that are operating at the highest possible level. And at that moment in time, for me, it was Dave Ramsey. You hear the debt free screams, and I craved that. I absolutely craved it. How are these people doing it?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's how I learned how to
Okay.
budget, really. So I went all in on following those methodologies, so much so that we sold our house, we sold the car, we sold everything but the children, and we moved from a six-bedroom, like 5,000 square foot home down to a 1,300 square foot home. And by that time, we had kid number two, and we had grandma too because she was going through a transition. Yeah, to an apartment because we had to relocate from one area where I remember, and it still goes through my head. My realtor saying, "You probably don't want to go to this area here because the schools aren't that great. But if you go to this area, it's a little bit more expensive, but the schools are great." But I wanted this big house.
Yeah.
And I was like, it doesn't matter. My children go to private schools only. That was me. I was so bougie. I just look there. Make room for my head. It was intense, and no one could handle me at the moment. But again, that was the wake up call. You got one kid in kindergarten, and that's $20,000. And when I went to college, it was 2,000. My husband's like, what in kindergarten are they teaching that's $20,000?
Yeah.
And then you have the second kid. He was like, I'm just gonna die. He was like, no, we can't. And so it made sense. So that made sense.
Yeah.
And I had to learn quick. Okay. We have our student loans, we've got their tuition. So once we downsized, we went to live in an apartment in a top A school district, because that's the thing I said. I don't care if I live in a trailer. My kids have to go to a good school, and
Yeah.
if we're not going to pay for it budget wise, we need to live in an area where the schools are great. And
Yeah. Look, yeah, no, yeah, we're both parents, so that was huge. Starting early in the education side, super key.
yeah,
It's fun. I live in New York City, and it's $74,000 for kindergarten for a top-notch
what
private school here. Seventy-four
I
thousand dollars.
have goosebumps right now.
One kid,
What?
74 grand. Yeah. And that doesn't include like transportation. If you want them to bus to school, it's another 10. And that's just the summer. That's the September to May. That's not even the summer. You got to pay for summer camp and everything. But that's a whole different topic. That's a whole different podcast and topic
I'm
to
not
talk
ready.
about.
I wasn't ready. I
But
was not ready for that. Yeah.
how do you think about debt? How's your feeling on debt? How's that
Yeah.
evolved? For me, it was like in the beginning, it was like debt is bad. Like it was just drilled into me
Yeah.
as a kid. Debt is bad. We save all our money.
Cash
You
is
put in it.
king.
Cash is king. You save your money. You put it in a bank account. It earns interest. You save. You buy a house, and then you save some more. That was what I was taught.
Yeah.
And I
You
still
work,
say like
work, work, W2, W2. Yeah.
WW2. And when I remember when I first told my parents that I was going to quit my investment banking job and wanted to do real estate and my own venture, they kind of looked at me like I had three heads. It was like, are you kidding me? Like you spent all this time and work, and we came here to support you, and now you're going to quit this like job to go do what? So that was a fun conversation. But back to the debt point, like how is your thinking involved on that? Because obviously real estate involves a ton of debt. What was your journey on that?
Yeah. And let me make a quick comment. Good on you for telling your parents. My parents are immigrant. They still don't know that I quit. I'm too scared to tell them.
Oh, really? Damn.
I was like, you told them. My oh my gosh, I wouldn't hear the end of it. They rather me have the propped up the Dr. Rachel, this and that. And I'm working my fingers to the bone, 14-hour shifts overnight. So yeah, they're not ready. I'm looking for the right time to tell them. But nevertheless, yeah. So that again, and that's why I emphasize to everyone, for me during that time period to get out of debt, Dave Ramsey, I was all, and that was my world view of things. But the for me, there was another aha moment, right? We go through phases. The next aha moment was okay, we're getting this step behind us. We got to a really solid place in just a few short years by getting
Nice.
really laser focused. And so we were ready to buy a house to live in. And at the same time, I was so burnt out. My husband was so burnt out, Michael, that we were thinking to ourselves, okay, I know I was for sure. How do I work smarter and not harder? Because between the two of us at one point, we had 5 jobs. Can you imagine? And so there were no more hours left to work. And I was like, how do we generate more revenue if there are no more hours left to work during the day?
Yeah.
Seriously. And thankfully, some of the work was remote. So you can be logging in while you're logging off. So there was not much of a commute for some of it. So it made that possible. But I had to ask myself, like, is this it? Am I
Yeah.
just going to be working my fingers to the bone and punching clock to even get ahead? And
Yeah.
so I started looking at how do I make my money work for me? And in comes Robert Kiyosaki. And I was like, this is it. Aha. The only way that I could really get ahead and my worldview is to leverage other people's money, which is the bank's money, right? I still, Dave Ramsey, I'm sorry, but I still wanted to buy that house for cash, but I'm able to buy 3 houses for the price of one, right?
Right.
Because I can do 10% down, 3.5% down. We did a house hack. And so for me, that's where I'm at. So
Yeah.
I find debt to be something that I love to use when I am identifying and leveraging a strategy that I will get an ROI back. So I don't want to use debt necessarily to consume, but I use it primarily as a business, a strategy to then provide me an ROI to move my business forward.
Yeah, and thank you for hitting that. That's a huge point, and I think that's what like our parents try to instill. And I'm going to guess that's what your parents did
Yeah.
too. My parents would have instilled in us like debt is bad, but like they didn't.
Yeah.
But we're like the nuances, like consumer debt, in my view, is bad. Is bad. Should if you can't afford paying for an iPhone, like you really shouldn't be paying it over 24 months. And it's like maybe you shouldn't get an iPhone, the iPhone 14 Max Pro, and the fancy pink color that you want, right? And overpaying for something like that. But
Right.
if you are investing in something that can earn you 20%, yes, take the debt, 5%. That's great. Like you're making money. And that's how you're going to leverage that's how you're going to build your investment portfolio. And I think that's where the power of debt is really powerful. And that's a nice segue to short-term rentals and being able to finance properties at 10%, 15%, 20%, or 3% on an FHA and being able to earn the returns. I saw that even when a finance background, I was like, man, you don't need an MBA to know that, hey, if I can borrow at 5% or earn 40%, like I should do this all day. Or even run an arbitrage where you get your money back really fast and you can scale a lot faster. Those made a ton of sense to me, which is why I eventually quit my job and jumped into business. How about you? What was your journey as secretly quit your job? Tell us
Sorry,
just
mom.
she's not listening, but how many, just tell us about your portfolio. Like, where are you at? Where
Yeah.
are you at right now?
Yeah, yeah, same as you. So once we started back in 2018 or so with our first property, we actually analyzed multiple different, I would say, real estate investing strategies. Real estate, I understood. I didn't understand crypto. I get the stock market a little bit, but I didn't really understand how to manage it in a way that would make sense for me. But I understood real estate from the perspective of I can see it, it's real, I can touch it. Let me stick to this. And from real estate, you do have an opportunity to leverage multiple acquisition strategies, right? So I was looking at different things that I was seeing in different RIAs, for instance, wholesaling, right? I was like, wait, how am I
Yeah.
going to get into this? There was wholesale. Oh, that looks easy. They said you don't even need any money to start because I was on my frugality kick, right? But once you count how much it takes to really go all in, right? And at this point, like I said, we were working multiple jobs, so I wanted to be very strategic. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to buy another job. I just didn't want to buy another job. So I said, okay, how am I going to be the most strategic with this next phase of our lives? So wholesaling was out. It's great strategy if you don't have a full-time job working in medicine, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have a whole team that's built out and you've already trained it, but who has that? And number two, fix and flip. This looks great. I can design a house, and at the end of the 45-minute episode, I've got $40,000. No, you are pretty much a project manager full-time, chasing down grown people, call contractors, trying to make sure that your renovation gets done. Long-term landlord, oh my gosh, you can get all of these doors, like in the south of Georgia, it's like $300,000 for 20 doors. But wait a minute, they only pay $160 a month in rent. Seriously, can
Yeah.
I live there too? Because that rent
You
that's so
want
good to me. Mike was like, you don't want to live
I
there.
don't live in it.
You don't. And so imagine getting phone calls upon phone calls from those 20
That's
doors.
20
So
people that's
no,
going to call you.
there's 20 people.
That's 20 people you got to collect rent from. And that's 20 HVAC units. This is like, no thanks.
20, like
For
maybe
$200 a month.
evictions, 20. Yeah. So I said no. And so where I landed was okay. And that's long term landlord. Didn't want to do it. There, the spread wasn't even that great either. So it was not enticing. I was like, okay, where can I get the biggest bang for my buck? And that's where I went into short term rentals, and not only short term rentals, but I focused on more of a higher end luxury space. And the day that clicked for me, because I was going back and forth, was when I got a wholesale deal. It was in Alabama. We drove 2.5 hours. We get to the property. Once we get there, the photo that I had seen with the nice minty green house with the sun glistening on, and it was just like so perfect. You get there, the roof is caved in. There's caulking dripping from all of the crevices, like it was held together by. I'm like, let's get out of here. That was it for me. I was like, okay, I'm not going to be part of the We Buy Ugly Houses crew. I'm going to be the We Buy Pretty Houses crew. And that's where I got my start and leveraged 10% down. Actually, we did a house hack. It was like 3.5% down. And the rest is history. So now we're at 17 in our portfolio. We own 9. We arbitrage 4, and we're co-hosting the rest.
Got it. So, own not, so 17 total, own 9, arbitrage
Mm-hmm.
4, so it's 13,
Mm-hmm.
and 6 that you co-host. Okay, great. And then the ones that let's start with the ones that you own. Just generally, where are they?
Yeah, so Florida, Georgia, and Pennsylvania.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
So you ventured up the Mason Dixon. Okay. And then what about the arbitrage units?
They're in Georgia.
Georgia. Okay. And then
Yes,
ones you co-host?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Okay.
Yeah.
And then as you tell us about how you the first property you bought, like what was the evolution of, did you just buy until you couldn't, you ran out of capacity or the will to buy more, the willingness to buy more, and then started arbitraging and then co-hosting, and then once you built out the infrastructure, you start co-hosting. What was that journey to where you are right now?
The highest leverage tool, I think, in our investment strategy is what you and I are doing, Michael, is connecting and networking with others. And here's why I say that. So we purchased our first one in an area that we lived in. So in our own backyard, there's something to be said with investing in your own backyard if you're able to. If there aren't
Mm-hmm.
limitations, for instance, due to regulations or just financial constraints because it's just so overpriced, right?
Yeah.
So if you're able to swing it, there's something to be said about investing in your own backyard. So we started there. It was a property that was on sale for 299,000, which was different from the property that we were going to Alabama for, which was a 3 bedroom for 17,000. I was like, we made it. We made it. We didn't make it. 299,000 in an area where I knew the property values were well into the low 400s. And this was a house that the homeowner unfortunately passed away. They were older, and the trustee was out of state, and the roof had a leak. They needed to just get rid of it. The trustee reached out to a realtor who was not familiar with the area either. They placed it on the MLS. This is good old Zillow. They placed it on the MLS. My husband and I, we saw it. We immediately made an offer on it for the 290 that they were asking for. with no contingencies, with nothing, because we
Okay.
knew, we
Yeah,
knew.
you do.
We were the eighth, as soon as it came on the market in the morning, we were the eighth bid. And they accepted our offer because we didn't ask for anything. Everyone else had questions. We drove by, we're like, yeah, the roof doesn't look
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
roof doesn't look great. It was zero point 0.2 miles away. We could have jogged by. That's how close it was. But we
Yeah.
said the roof doesn't look great, but nevertheless, how much would it cost to replace a roof? Right? And so we
Yeah.
had that number anywhere from 8 to 15,000 in that particular area during that time.
Yeah.
We still had a spread. So that was a deal for us. So we went in, put in
Fantastic.
the work, and we changed out the carpets. We added some backsplash to the bathroom as well as the kitchen. And really, the rest was history. It turned out to be an amazing home where we got to serve not only short term rental guests, but midterm rental guests as well. And that's when we got on our kick for midterm rentals.
Got it. Okay. I definitely hit on midterm rentals, but out of your portfolio right now, like how many are short-term rentals? Maybe the ones that, not the ones
The
that you co-host, the ones that you
Yeah.
own or arbitrage.
So I leveraged the hybrid model, Michael. So the ones that I leverage for midterm rentals, there are six of them, just six that are midterm rentals. They also serve as short term rentals during periods where there's availability.
Okay. Got it. That's smart. Obviously, you want to fill in the gaps. So more appropriately, you kind of have a hybrid strategy between short-term rentals and long-term rentals. I guess which one is the dominant strategy, and what is the one that is used to fill in the blanks?
Yeah, it's market specific. In
Okay.
my suburban non vacation rental markets, the midterm rental is dominant. And in my vacation rental markets, the short term rental is dominant.
Got it. And then for the vacation rental, then the low season, you'll try to find someone longer term. That makes sense. On
Exactly.
so let's focus on the ones where actually the short term rentals
Yeah.
aren't more the primary strategy. So you can like where maybe pick one, like where are they? Like where is it? When did you buy it? How much did it do
Yeah.
last year?
Sure. So I have one. We can pick one in the Poconos. Bought it in 2020.
Okay,
No,
nice,
2019. 2019. Great
great
deal.
timing.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Amazing timing for 175,000 with an indoor pool. Needless to say, it needed some work. Okay.
Yeah,
But we put some work into it, painted a mural in the indoor pool area, renovated bathrooms, updated the kitchen some. The cabinets were pretty good, so we painted those. The concrete outside needed some work because we really wanted to create that like a vibe, right? So curb
yeah,
appeal and a vibe is very important. And additionally, we put an outdoor sauna, like one of those dome type of saunas, which
cool.
is really popular in that market. So understanding what amenities are popular, hot tub, sauna, pool for the mountain market, swimming pool for the beach markets.
Yeah,
And because of that, we were able to really up level this property. We actually took a loan against it. It I believe it appraised at 650 or 625.
man.
After all that work was done, we invested a little under 100,000 into it.
Okay,
And yeah, 650, and it really was gangbusters. Last year we generated on the P&Ls, it was 185.
amazing. So just
Yeah.
to recap, so 175 in, about 4 years ago now, 100
Mhm.
of cash into more to get it up to that luxury level that you want. So you're at 275 in, you're probably a buck 35 cash in the deal, and you
Mhm.
did 185 last year. And we don't need to guess the margins, but I mean, there's a lot of meat there. So congrats, obviously that's an amazing outcome. Definitely and that's one thing I want to highlight. Really know the market that you're in. Do the research on
Yeah.
AirDNA, on Airbnb,
Mhm.
whatever resource that you can use. Find out what people really like in that market, and just make sure that you can replicate that, if not do better than that. AirDNA has a great tool. You go in, you can download all the properties and look at their revenue, see, and really go very granular and figure out what amenities those all have, and just find something that's similar. That's a really easy shortcut to finding great properties to invest in. That's great. Well, that's a great outcome. Tell us about, maybe talk about one of the midterm rentals.
Yeah.
How has that, like, how did it's a big topic now, midterm rentals, and you're really on the forefront of that. How do people think about, I guess, maybe let's start on the high level. How do you think about short-term rentals versus midterm rentals? I know you do a hybrid, but how do you think about the two kind of strategies separately?
Okay, I thought I was going to sneeze. Pardon me. Yes. No, I love both of them. What I do love about the midterm rental, especially in my suburban markets, it's such a great strategy for those who are looking for those pockets of rest. That's what I find with them. If I want to go overseas for a time period, right? Imagine my property getting booked for 8 months. Like many of the members of my community, I have an attorney that I work with, Sophia. She's booked till December with a midterm rental for a family who had encountered a tornado, so it's going to take a while to get that home completely renovated because a tree had fallen through it. Like several areas of the property just really were impacted.
Uh,
So, again, for me, midterm rentals are a great strategy, especially for busy professionals who are trying to swing both a real estate investment business plus their W 2. It's just absolutely wonderful. Now, short-term rentals again is my bread and butter in the vacation rental market. So for me, that works perfectly because that's where we're able to squeeze as much juice out of those properties. And you don't have a lot of midterm guests visiting the area for an
right.
extended period of time during the higher season. So if I were to compare both, honestly, I love both, but for different reasons. And so, in my short term rental markets, these are areas that my family and I would love to visit as well. So, imagine you have a home that someone else is paying for that you get to
Yeah.
enjoy a few times during the year. So, for
Yeah.
me, that's what I love about it. And making sure to position myself so that it cash flows has been definitely a worthwhile endeavor and it hasn't been as easy as in the years prior. I'm back in the business again of being very strategic about the revenue management, looking at the calendar,
Yeah.
every single day to make sure everything looks okay. Whereas my moments of set it and forget it, which I never really was setting it and forget it, but I did have a time period where I didn't need to be as strategic. But there's a lot of competitors in the market, so you want to stay on top of things if you want to make sure
Yeah.
that you're being booked appropriately.
That's a good segue. I mean, I think the last 2 years have been really good. You could set, you not forget it, but you could not think about it for a little bit because the market was so
Hmm.
strong. There was just so much demand and relatively low, lack of supply. But that supply has grown, right? There's no.
Yeah.
You look at the data, like supply continues to grow in the short-term rental
Yeah.
space. It's grown 20%,
Absolutely.
15 to 20%, depending on the source, year over year, versus the first half of 2022. And obviously, that depends on what different markets. First of all, the demand has been there. So demand has continued to grow. It just hasn't grown at 20%.
Yeah.
And we're in a period of uncertainty right now. I think the numbers just came out yesterday. The U.S. economy grew at 1.1% last quarter, so still growing. But there's people definitely concerned given the headlines. How is that? Let's look at your portfolio. I'll start with mine. Right, we're doing fine, and our Tennessee properties are lower year over year, but it was off such a high level. All still cash flow. Things are looking good for us during the summer. As good as last year? No, but still better than our underwriting when we did the underwriting 2020, 2021. Philadelphia, like where we have our arbitrage properties, they continue to perform. Things are reopening, more business travel, all that stuff. And so I want to give the listeners real facts about how people that are been in the business the last few years are doing. How are your Pocono properties doing?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Michael. So some of them are doing really well. The ones that I feel are on the verge of not cash flowing as well as I would like them to, because we have seen a decline as well. I do an assessment, a quarterly assessment. And so whoever's like there's a few properties that's like on the chopping block. I'm looking at it from the side, it's looking at me from the side. I'm like, you're on the chopping block, my friend. And what the key components for me that I've noticed that has some of the biggest impact are the older homes that require so much in terms of capital expenditures where you're getting a few more complaints due to something's not working, and it doesn't matter how many times you send out the repair person and it still is problematic, that starts to eat into your margins because that's when refunds start to
Yep.
occur to make sure that you're recovering that service, right? Service recovery is key. We operate at the highest service level as possible. So guest satisfaction is very important to me. For me, we're actually doing some new construction projects. We're actually selling off in 1031, exchanging into newer properties, or we're focused on properties that either are newly renovated or newly constructed, or we're building ourselves. So that's the transition we're going to: newer, bigger, better, newer. That's part of the process there. On a quarterly basis, again, we look at each property and we're trying to identify as quickly as possible what are the trends so that we can future pace ourselves. Okay, Q1 of next year, this one's got to go. And that's pretty much the
But
strategy because we don't want to sit on a whole bunch of like a huge portfolio. We're not into the biggest portfolio. I don't need 100 doors, right? I'm satisfied with 10 doors. I can go down to 10 doors that are the highest possible quality that I can offer, and I'm good. So
yeah,
that is really the strategy for me.
definitely. No, that quantity, like quantity over a couple things pull out. Quality over quantity for sure.
Yep.
And just like really being very hands-on your portfolio, looking at is that equity working for you, right? There's no point in owning property for the sake of it. That equity needs to be earning for you. And if it's not, then, what's the highest and best use there? So that's great. That's what you're doing. Are you seeing on the midterm rental side, are you seeing, it sounds like short-term rentals, obviously you're seeing some deterioration from last year for some of them. How about midterm rentals? Are they generally doing better, doing the same, doing worse versus last year?
To be honest, they're doing better, and it's unfortunate as to why they're doing better. So I focus on one particular strategy with midterm rental. It's primarily the displaced homeowner strategy, where individuals who are displaced from their home due to a natural or a man-made disaster need a place to stay. And for whatever reason, there are so many disasters happening. Like you turn on the news,
Uh,
there's I don't know if you saw Arkansas a couple of weeks ago and the
yeah.
train derailment. So when they go and knock on people's doors and say, hey, you got to leave your home because there's a toxin in the environment, where are those people going to stay, especially if it's a larger family? So we host families who have encountered tornadoes, who have encountered a fire to their home, fallen tree, a water pipe burst. I'm my own victim right now. I'm like my own. Oh my gosh. So we have a water pipe that burst and a fallen tree, two different incidences. What is going on? And yeah, I mean, we are seeing an uptick of those unfortunate catastrophes. And because of that, we continue to be able to serve this population. And I know whenever people hear midterm rentals, they're thinking of travel nurses. But since our homes are 5 bedrooms plus, we don't host travel nurses. We primarily host large multi generational families who
Got it.
have kids and pets and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, those are the kind of renters you love, right? One, obviously
Yeah.
the insurance pays for it. And,
The insurance pays for it.
there's no counterparty risk. And two, families, like they're not going to, I might have a barbecue out back or a birthday party. They're not throwing a huge rager at your place. So you protect yourself against those kind of outlier incidents. That's great. Look, I think that right now it's smart to, again, just be really close to your numbers, making sure that there's still plenty of opportunity in short-term rentals, midterm rentals,
Yeah.
to be really clear on your numbers and just being to operate at a high level. So, Dr. Rachel,
And what
where
I
is,
wanted to add real quick, if you don't
of
mind,
course,
Michael,
no, of course,
a lot of people who are encountering some regulatory constraints. I know a woman, she just bought a deal, a townhouse. They built it, they were ready to go. Turns out she's not able to short term rent it. And so this midterm rental is the answer for some of these individuals who still are looking to figure out how to make a deal pencil out. So I just want to put it out there. I do know that midterm rental is coming in handy for those who have some regulations that they need to overcome.
yeah, no, the more tools that investor has in their back pocket, the better investor day will be. Where, as we kind of conclude the conversation, where people are interested in midterm rentals, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. If you go to Instagram, short.term.gems, you'll find me there on Instagram. I share a lot of free content on midterm rentals, and I have a webinar that's coming up in a few weeks. So if you look in the link in my bio, I'll be sharing it in there.
Perfect. And I'll share how to reach you in the show notes for this episode. So my traditional final question I ask all my guests is, a business and team sport, especially short-term rentals, what is the kindest thing that someone's done for you through your journey that's really made a difference and that you remember?
Ooh, that's a great question. I just, like you said, business is a team sport. My team, I absolutely love my team members. They go to bat for me. They say they would die for me. They're so sweet. And so some of the kindest things were just, things that, thoughtful things that they sent me along the way, whether it's a photo of the team together, if they're able to meet and I'm not there. I think that was really sweet. So one day, two of the team members met. They found a photo of me on the phone and they snapped a photo and they're like, the team's here. And it's just the little things for me, just like with rentals, right? At the luxury level, it's the little extra special touches. They go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. We wouldn't be here with our teams of people that kind of support your short-term rentals, your customer service staff, the cleaners, the handyman, just everyone in the background that makes this work and allows us to deliver a great experience for our guests. Dr. Richard, thanks so much for sharing your story with us and appreciate you being on the show.
Well, thank you so much, Michael, for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you.